Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast.
And welcome to the Get Geek podcast. My name is Gabe, and it's been a while, but I am joined by Walt, Jose, Eli, and AJ. Say what's up.
What's down?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
What up, kids?
It has definitely been quite a while since we've all gathered around, I guess. But we absolutely had to. We finally found some time to get together, not just here on the podcast. We got together for the first time, I think, since before, right?
It's been about a month. It's been
Well, no. So it's to see a film.
Oh,
and then review. Yeah.
The last time we got together, all of us, was to go to Brooklyn Video Games and Arcade. That was the very last time, and that was like last year.
Right. That was like the first time that we were like seeing the light out of the shutdown. But then the last time that we did a movie review, after watching it together, was before the whole shutdown pandemic and all that stuff. Before the blip.
Yep.
Right?
Before the snap.
Anyway, we're talking about Thor, Love and Thunder. We all hooked up yesterday. We got a chance to see it. It was an awesome experience for the fact that we got to all hang out. I think that we can all kind of agree on that. Maybe thoughts on the film. We'll get to that. We also got a few other things that we're going to talk about. Namely, the boys are going to talk about The Boys Season 3. So we got a cool show coming up for you guys. That being said, I have not started Season 3 at all.
It's
sad.
So
this is your spoiler warning, and you guys can go ahead and maybe do what I'm about to do, which I'm going to skip this little portion and come back when I get the hailing sign to come back into the podcast through video, so that I do not get spoiled, because I really, really, really want to see. I'm a huge fan of The Boys, but I have not checked it out. And you know, you guys that watch The Boys know that it's quite shocking, so I don't want to be spoiled on any of the shock and aws. How does that sound?
Sounds good to us.
cool.
Yep.
Good.
All right. Well, I am now putting down the headset, and I'm going to unplug it to make sure, or maybe mute it. I don't know. I want to make sure I don't hear anything, but I am standing by. Peace.
All right. Yeah. So while Wolfie is standing by, before we get to The Boys, y'all know our quick plugs. Please like, rate, share, and subscribe to the Get Geek podcast. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, your Facebooks, your Twitters, your TikToks. So please check us out there at Get Geek Podcast. You can also find us where all of your favorite podcasts are sold. So please go on there, give us a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. That is the best place to give a review to your favorite podcast crew if you want to support us and show us some love. So please go on ahead and do that for us.
Yep.
All right.
Sounds good.
Let me sip my tea real quick, Kermit style. My coffee, actually. Everybody get ready. Everybody get ready.
Ready.
Season
I'm
3.
ready. I'm ready.
You ready? All right.
Yep.
Eli's ready. Eli sounds ready. All right, Eli. So I'm gonna let you jump us off a little bit, with some simple opinions. You ain't got to give us anything crazy, but how'd you like the season 3 of The Boys? In a small nutshell, what'd you think?
My opinion is that it's overall just great, really bloody and gory, as you would expect from any The Boys season. But I really like how they like dig into like not just the politics, but like more of what's the name, Homelander's character, and you could really see that they put a lot of effort and work into make fully developing his character into the antagonist that he is by the end of the season. So it's pretty sick.
The even more dangerous antagonist,
more dangerous.
right? Because he's been like the antagonist, and he's slowly getting more and more unhinged.
Depraved.
I want to
Yeah,
talk about it later
unhinged.
because I actually kind of love where they left him off at the end of this season. It wouldn't have worked without the incredible setup that they did over the last couple of years. But I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to go around real quick, get everybody's quick opinions on season 3. Who wants to jump in and give a little quick thought on how they felt about this
Mine
particular
is
season?
going to be so quick. It's only going to be 2 words.
Yeah.
And those 2 words are soldier and boy.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I know we're going to get into that Soldier Boy a lot more later because Jensen Ackles is, one of our favorites here. We got a big Supernatural fan in the crew, and Jensen Ackles, of course, was on that show for many, 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 many years. Now he's getting to branch out, and I will agree. He was a fun part of the show so far. Walt, what about you?
I'm kind of torn. I loved the show. I loved the season. I loved what it was. I have maybe a little bit of a hot take, and I'm not married to it all that much, but I it's hard for me to say this because I love the season so much, but I didn't feel like this season was kind of necessary in a sense, if you look at it narratively wise, because we started at a point where Homelander was the bad guy. A lot of things happened in between, and we ended up at the point where Homelander's still the bad guy. And nothing's really changed. I mean, Soldier Boy was a fantastic character, but did he accomplish anything?
I think
He just went from being frozen to being unfrozen to being frozen again. So, I'm torn, and I'm leaning more toward I love the season because of what it was, but then there's that small part of me, and I guess the reason why I feel that way is because of Obi-Wan. Because Obi-Wan felt like another series where it's like, what's the point of that show? So that's the only thing I have with, and again, don't get me wrong, I love that season. And there's just that little nagging thing in the back of my head that's like, well, how did this particular season move the narrative forward? And while we got a little bit more insight of what Homelander was, we've kind of known what Homelander has been since season 1.
Right.
So, what did this season actually accomplish, except for giving us some great great things, right? But that's my feel on it.
Some good set pieces. Random small aside, did you all hear that there's somebody who took the entire season of Obi-Wan and turned it into a 2.5 hour movie? Somebody,
yes, I did see that.
Edited it down. They turned it into 2.5 hour movie, and they removed a lot of the stuff that they considered extraneous to the season. So they removed like 3.5 hours almost of the actual show and turned it into a movie. Might be worth checking out. I'll send y'all the link if you want to take a look at it. So my thoughts on this series are, I really, really enjoyed it. I think personally, like, the boys trying to be shocking is a little boring, honestly, though, because I don't see it as much more shocking than a lot of other shows that we've seen in the past with its violence and sexual content and things of that nature. I'm not a fan of the show like striving to like continue to like get over those barriers necessarily.
Yeah, it's cheap thrills.
It's cheap thrills, but the story of the show I thought was great, and I have to like a little bit disagree because what I wanted to say about Homelander's character is this season was definitely a little bit about his arc continuing, right? Like him getting slowly more and more and more and more unhinged. But I thought the point of the season was less about him and more about the public, because when you watch how the season ends, it's about getting the public to a place where they're like, for lack of a better term, Trumpsters, where like every part of reality is contextually how they perceive it. Like the reason behind what people do certain things is dictated by their reality, because at the end, and this is spoilers, obviously, Homelander finally does what we've seen him think about over the last several seasons, and he just straight up kills somebody that pisses him off. Like that one person at the end. What is it? He
Mhm.
throws something at Ryan. What's the kid's name again?
Yes.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Right.
Ryan.
Yep, that's his
Mhm.
name.
He throws something at Ryan, right? And then Homelander just straight up murders the guy. He just shoots him with the beams and blows his head off. And I think that was the stepfather of MM's daughter, right? That was the first one
The
to
one
start
that
cheering.
first.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
That
definitely.
was-
Yeah, yeah.
Well, doesn't that
This was to
remind
get
you?
there, right? I think that was what the point of this season was to get to get the public to the point where they were as dangerous as Homelander or as Soldier Boy or as Vought in general. What was
Well,
you going to say?
it is interesting that you brought up that particular scene and stuff
Mhm.
because the show creator Eric Kripke has said very publicly this season that Homelander is basically Trump, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny that you picked that particular scene because we have heard Trump mention that he can go into the middle of Times Square and shoot somebody and nobody would care.
You said
And
like Fifth Avenue or something. I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue, right?
yeah, and nobody would care. And here you see the actual visualization of that act happening and nobody caring.
Nobody caring.
So
or making that leap, that logical
Mhm.
leap to say like somehow this thing that Homelander just did was justified because that guy was a liberal, or like
right,
whatever.
So I
libtard.
agree with you. I agree with you in the fact that we had to see the Trumpsters or the Homelandersters, however you want to say, it, right?
The homies.
The homies, right? Yeah,
The homelies.
the homies get to that place, where it's like QAnon and Trump and all this other stuff. And
Mhm.
but you know what? I don't think you needed the entire season to do that. So again, like I said, I struggle with this because this season was so fun, right? And I also agree with the fact that you don't need to go for cheap thrills with the show because this show is so well written that it almost kind of cheapens the show, right? It's like you're striving for this to kind of shock us. You don't need to do that. Just tell us a compelling and awesome story, which you're doing already, right?
Mhm. Like all that build up to the Hero Gasm episode was just like,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care. Like,
did you hear? And just on the side, but going back to the whole Homelander Trump connection, have you heard lately how right wing viewers are shocked with season 3 because they're now realizing that Homelander's the villain?
I don't know, man.
Did you hear about that?
I find that like a little hard to believe, but maybe it's true. But like, I find it hard to believe that nobody realized like this murderous psychopath was the villain of the show, regardless of what your politics are. It's like, how do you not understand?
But
like, I understand the fake news allegory and all that stuff, like that's standing up for that particular side of things. But I mean, I don't know.
Well, this particular season really leaned into the comparisons of 45 and Homelander, right?
Very much so.
So
appearing on new shows, talking about fake news, all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like immediately spinning things in the same way that Trump would spin things to change the narrative.
So maybe that's the thing that kind of shocked them and like, oh crap, they're talking about us, But supposedly it's a real thing because it's being reported all over the place. You go on Reddit and they're just going crazy. It's like they're ban the show, woke culture, all this other stuff, and I just find it fascinating. I really, really do.
I wonder how like realistic that is because I find I think the fact that people believe that Taika Waititi asked Natalie Portman to be in a Star Wars movie and didn't know that she was in Star Wars. I'm pretty sure people but I'm pretty sure people don't realize that Taika Waititi was friggin' joking. I don't think Taika Waititi is that dumb. I'm pretty sure Taika Waititi knew she was in Star Wars and just wanted to mess with people real hard, just like he's been doing. I mean, what has he been doing with Star Wars? He's like, I don't know why they gave me this movie. I'm going to destroy it. I'm going to wreck it. I'm going to ruin it. You know what I mean?
He is very eccentric, though.
Yeah, he's a troll.
He's very out there. So
he's a troll.
Yeah, exactly. So
all right. So that said, I definitely want to jump into the main new character of the season a little bit and talk about that because I know that it's a fan favorite here at the crew. So So, AJ, tell us a little bit about what you thought of Soldier Boy this season, and maybe debunk this thing that Soldier Boy or all this stuff wasn't necessary to get to the ending of Homelander. Or what do you think? Do you agree with
The
that? Do you disagree
man,
with that?
the man, the myth, the legend. Oh wait, sorry, different character.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
Soldier
Paul
Boy.
Reiser.
The legend, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Soldier Boy was just like, if you ever wanted to truly do a bizarro Captain America, I think you even said this,
Mm-hmm.
Jose.
Mm-hmm.
This is just how you do it. Like, sorry, Marvel. What's his name?
U.S. agent, right?
U.S. Agent just got beat by a landslide.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Like, ah, like I'm barely able to formulate words. Just it only confirms everything I've known all along. Jensen is just amazing.
Yeah.
And like, you give the man good material, unlike a certain last 3-4 seasons of a certain show.
10.
It really you get something truly wonderful, like just the whole thing behind how Soldier Boy apparently got gone, because
Mm-hmm.
there was this whole like cover up that, in the, again, spoilers, so watch the show, come back, whatever. He got taken by the commies, quote unquote. Well, he did in the context of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he gets tested on. How he gets tested on, kind of funny, kind of sad. Um, and then he comes back, and you know, people kind of knew superheroes were bad, but Soldier Boy was one of those dudes that people kind of figured were all right.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
They continue with that running theme. He's just as whacked out and messed up as Homelander, as we are soon to as we discover.
Yeah, and we discover that essentially that connection between them is one of the reasons, part of the reason that Homelander is as messed up as he is. And I want to give a special like shout out to that whole scene where we find out how Soldier Boy got captured, because that was I think a pretty awesome sequence, a bunch of sequences that they pulled off this season with Black Noir, with the
Noir.
Disney characters essentially like narrating things for him
Oh
and
my
telling him what
god,
he
that
needed to
was
do.
sick.
The one that basically sounded like freaking what is it, Porky Pig?
Yeah.
Like with the stutter and all that stuff. I thought that was freaking awesome. I thought that was a cool way to like kind of add to Black Noir's character. But y'all are familiar with his storyline in the comics, right? You know they
He's
changed that
actually, oh
significantly.
yeah, they changed it significantly.
Yep.
He's supposed to be a Homelander clone
Yep.
in the comics, but in this one, he's just he's something completely different. He's just another guy from another place.
Well,
And what really happens is that he was originally part of Soldier Boy's team. He was also sadly the laughing stock and Soldier Boy's punching bag.
Hmm.
And that really influenced his revengeance on Soldier Boy. And it
just
cost him a lot.
So gave him brain damage.
the way
Yeah.
we got to be careful how we say Soldier Boy and Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy, tell him.
Yeah.
Soldier Boy.
Just to throw some stuff out there, Kripke just recently, within the last day or two, said we may not have seen the last of Black Noir.
I don't think so either.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Remember, he
No.
has healing
He
powers.
Yeah.
He has healing powers. They
But
showed
it
this.
looked
In,
like he
they
died.
showed this in season 1, I think, when he fought Kimiko or somebody. Remember, they gored him and like messed him up pretty bad, and he healed. He's got
Well,
healing powers. He's not dead.
we may
Oh,
not.
come
No. But
on.
the way he made it sound like we may have actually seen the end of this version of Black Noir, but
Hmm.
you know, the actor that plays him, he mentioned there may be another guy wearing the mask. So
Hmm.
it'll be interesting. Maybe they do go back to that whole clone of Homelander thing and whatnot. We don't know, but he did strongly suggest Black Noir is not finished. He also seemed to suggest that this version of Black Noir is dead, but we may see somebody else donning the mask.
That's interesting.
So yeah, I know it's these cryptic comments that we get from Crypt Key that keep us kind of like dialed into the boys and whatnot. So
I'll tell you what, I'm surprised that nobody really died this season, to be honest, because I thought Frenchie was not long for this world. I was saying that from like the beginning of the season. I was like, they're gonna kill off Frenchie, and they had like so many tender moments with him and Kimiko. I was like, they got to kill this character off. I was a little surprised that they didn't even like in the end kill off Maeve, right? Because they had like that whole sequence where she jumps out the window, where Soldier Boy's about to sacrifice himself, and he doesn't die either.
right.
So I will give you that those particular aspects of the story didn't really, I mean, they didn't really advance it very much, to be honest, other than like I guess taking Maeve out of the story temporarily, maybe.
Well, Kripke did
Hmm.
say that he did think about killing her off, but he goes and he said somebody deserves a happy ending, and if there's anybody that does, it's her. So that's kind of like his
Yeah.
thinking into keeping Maeve alive and kind of like ushering her off to the sidelines for now.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
but I will I gotta say this because as good as Boys was, there are three people that I believe were super standouts this season. That is Carl Urban in his portrayal of
Oh
Butcher. He
yes.
absolutely killed it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I
Soldier boy.
hope that this kind of like discards the curse of CW off his back because now people are starting to see how great of an actor he is,
Right.
and maybe he can discard that whole he's just the guy from CW, right? But really, Anthony Starr was freaking amazing. I would say that he probably deserves an award for the performance that he had this season because you know he goes Anthony Starr. I've loved since I first saw him in Banshee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And within this season, he goes from moments of sheer desperation, right, where you can see that he's losing control to trying to get that control back and becoming even more terrifying as a character. And then he's got these moments with Ryan where it's like you know maybe there's a little good in him. It's just
Mm-hmm.
he's so messed up that it comes out in all the wrong ways, and the way he portrayed all of that range of emotion this season was just freaking amazing. The guy is probably, whenever he's on the screen, he's killing it all the time. He's
Yeah.
always just chewing up scenery because that's how good he is. So
Yeah, he did a solid. I thought this season, like not only the three of them, but I thought this season was in general the best acted season of the show so
mhm.
far.
Yeah.
Because I think they brought a lot of these arcs to like some interesting places. Like you have and his conflict with his daughter's stepfather, and that whole balance with dealing with his mental health and his conflict with Soldier Boy was pretty good.
Mhm.
And again, like you said, Butcher, it was very exceptional with all his flashbacks with his brother and things of that nature. The only person that I thought, the only character that I think is getting really obnoxious and kind of useless is Huey.
There you go.
Huey's
Yeah.
dumb.
Thank you.
And
I was about to say that. I think both Huey and Starlight were probably the weakest characters in the week and had the weakest storyline this season.
I liked
You know,
Starlight, but like Huey to me is just he started off. Somebody made this point in a conversation that I had like a couple weeks ago. He started off as like our point of view character. He's supposed to be like the audience surrogate, right? He's supposed to represent us kind of and like
right?
all that. But now he just like what does he do? He's just whining literally every single episode about how he can't help anybody and then he just gets himself into trouble constantly, and then it's a punchline about how he can disappear and gets naked, and the whole little brother angle with Butcher. But that had not
Yeah.
didn't really have anything to do with him. He didn't play off of it very well. And I'm not saying it's his fault. He's not a bad actor, but yeah, he just feels sort of useless over the last season or so.
Right now, I think he's solely there for character development for both Starlight and especially for Butcher.
Yeah.
I think that's his purpose, at least for this season, is to further their character development. And he's kind of like, excuse me, like you said, he's kind of stagnated this season.
Yeah, he hasn't really gone away. Even A-Train had like a pretty good storyline this season in his
A-Train was decent.
redemption arc. You know what I mean? I actually started to feel a little bit bad for him, and he did have one good scene with Huey, where Huey confronted him, and he said like he really was sorry for killing Huey's girlfriend by accident. So like there were some solid scenes with Huey in them, but it wasn't because of Huey. It wasn't because of his efforts, or his writing. It was because of whoever else was connected to him.
Yeah, I think the character that had the most cringy moments had to be the Deep.
Yeah, but he's always got the best cringy moments, though.
I know.
His cringe is what makes him so good.
He does it well. He does it well.
Thing.
That's the cool thing too.
Actually, can't hate on it, and it's weird.
That's kind of a cool thing too, though, right? Because if you think about it, Kripke was also a creator on some of these like WB and shows and things like that before he came to the boys, right? If I'm not mistaken, because they're bringing, like the Deep. Also, his pedigree is from Gossip Girl. All these characters are from like WB, UPN, like those kinds of shows, and they're all getting a chance to like shine either with, in the case of the Deep. What's that guy's name again? Darn, I can't remember the actor's name right now off the top of my head. But he's getting to show off his comedic talents, right? And then you got Jensen Ackles showing off some of his dramatic talents. So you got all of these characters from who have that, like you said, WB curse, getting a little bit of redemption on this show. We should get ready to move on because we don't want to leave Wolfie waiting for too long. But I do want to ask if anybody else has any other standouts that they wanted to mention real quick. Any other characters that they really enjoyed, or any other moments or anything like that.
Not so much the characters, but there was a question of the point of this season.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it was, maybe it's not so much about in terms of what happens. I think this season was very character driven.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a lot of character advancement and some rolling back, but I think that's also kind of the point. Not everyone goes somewhere. Some people go backwards. And I think that was the point of the season also, notwithstanding the whole move towards a, fascisty type arena in the show. So like,
I just feel like we didn't need an entire season to do that. We could have accomplished some of that stuff maybe within like 3 episodes and stuff. That's just, again, like I said, this was a very, very minor hot take. Like I wouldn't, like if you press the gun to my head, I'm not gonna be all about it. You know what I'm saying? It was just one of these things. And like I said, I think it was exacerbated by the fact that we had just seen Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan to me, as much as I enjoyed that show, seemed very pointless in the overall story of Star Wars. And so I kind of went into this show with that mentality, and maybe that probably is the reason why it was in the back of my head this entire time, So, but like I said, I'm not gonna fight over this. This is not a hill that I'm gonna die on, because I enjoyed this season 100%. So
I think the only other thing I would say to that point is that the way that the last season ended, they had to perform sort of a soft reboot of everybody's condition in this season, because everybody was in a different place. And the other point of the season also, remember, was the balance between Butcher's way of doing things and the right quote unquote right way of doing things. The show tried to prove that there was a cost doing things Butcher's way, obviously, but that it would in the end be the only way to actually win this fight. They tried to like kind of make that point also, right? Because they had Huey working with the senator, and they were part of like the actual government team that was supposed to deal with superheroes, and they all realized like this ain't gonna work. So there was that element of the season also, and they had to reset all of the characters' viewpoints around that change. But yeah, again, that's not a hill I'm gonna die on either. So I think that we should, unless anybody else has any quick thoughts or anything like that, let's move on and get to Thor 4. Yeah, let's jump into it. So
Yeah.
while we wait for Wolfie to get the signal, thoughts. Thor 4. Thor 4. What did y'all think? What did y'all think?
As
Thor.
I am putting my headphones on. Mic is on. I got the grand hailing sign of distress.
Making me do this for like the last couple of minutes, man.
Really?
Nah.
Yeah. No, I'm just.
Nah, we're messing with you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I was like, really looking at the video.
You caught the signal.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We on our Thor 4 now. We on our Thor 4 conversation. We just finished up with our boys' conversation.
Thor 4. We are on our Thor 4 conversation. Thor 4, Love and Thunder. What's up?
Love and
What's
Thunder.
up now?
What's going on from Brooklyn? Thor 4, Love and Thunder.
Yes, it's very good.
So what y'all think? Wolfie, we haven't heard from you in a bit since we were jumping on this conversation about the boys, so I'd like to hear from you first.
I was thinking about like
the story of Thor, the mighty Thor.
The mighty
so, all right,
Thor.
look, all right. I was just kind of like thinking about like what I was gonna say, what am I gonna do, and all that stuff. My review, trying to think of all the positives, and negatives, and I realized that like the last 4 or 5 reviews I've done have not been overly positive. Between Halo and whatever else we've been reviewing, and Doctor Strange, I mean, just like have not been super positive.
That's not your fault, though.
Yeah,
I guess
they have to be good.
Is it me? I've been thinking, is it me? Am I the drama? Am I the problem?
I don't think so. I mean, we all sort of agreed Obi-Wan could have been better. Doctor Strange could have been better. Halo was a dumpster fire. Like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah. All right.
You're allowed to be as negative or as positive as you want about Thor 4.
All right. So as I told you guys yesterday, I felt like I very thoroughly enjoyed the second half of the film and did not thoroughly enjoy the first half. And there were reasons for it. The main reason I didn't enjoy the first half is because I think that they were, trying to do too much of what made Ragnarok successful. And I think that was kind of like, in my opinion, a bit of a misunderstanding of what made Ragnarok successful. Ragnarok was really successful after, tapping into the... Oh my God, why am I blanking? I always get his name kind of like mushed together. Waika Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi. A little bit dyslexia. Taika Waititi. So he was really successful because he had like all the jokes, the colors, the good beats in Ragnarok and whatnot. But I think that it's not that he was successful. It's not that the film was successful because of all the jokes. I think it was just successful because it was different from the letdown that the first and second Thor was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were trying really hard to tap into all those jokes and the Waititi effect in this one, especially in the first half. And it didn't sit well with me. I think the jokes, some of them were a little bit too much, a little bit too childish, a little bit too frequent. And it took away from the gravity of the stuff going on in the film, with Jane Foster's, cancer and facing life and death, with the super strong performance from Christian Bale and him dealing with his daughter's death and his revenge, his journey of revenge, and like all the jokes, all the really in your face Taika Waititi stuff kind of takes away from it. Like, for example, I think Christian Bale was a phenomenal villain, but he wasn't as frightening or as disturbing as he could have been because the show was so... the movie was so... There was so much unwarranted comedy in my opinion. So it's like he was diminished because I was watching more of a comedy than I was watching a, you know, deadly villain. It's just, I think, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Think you know.
that kind of makes sense.
I,
Yeah.
I think the problem with that first half, that when you compare it to Thor Ragnarok, I think the jokes in Thor Ragnarok were more organic and kind of flowed with the movie. And I think the problem that we see here in Thor Love and Thunder is that, we have the telling of the story, but then it grinds to a halt because Taika Waititi has to have these Taika Waititi moments, right? So you have the story that's kind of flowing, progressing, and then all of a sudden, cut to a scene where two characters are talking and let them riff for a little bit. And then we get back to the story, and it's like, okay, let's cut again because now we have to have a funny moment. And then story, and then cut again because now we have to have them talking on a microphone, And I think that's where, the flow of the movie suffered in that first half because he couldn't find a way to get these jokes and his Taika Waititi moments in there organically like he did in Ragnarok. Ragnarok, the jokes came during the telling of the story. Here, he had to stop everything to kind of put that in there. So, I think that's part of why that first half was kind of
Yeah,
janky.
yeah, I can agree with that too. Yeah,
I mean, if you look at it in comparison to Ragnarok, also, um, you have. I think part of it also comes down to like who was in the movie, like the cast compared to Ragnarok. Because in Ragnarok, you have Jeff Goldblum, who is like an absolute.
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
an absolute gem at doing like improv and things like that, right? And you had Tom Hiddleston, right? You had Kate Blanchett. You had all of these like other really solid like improv actors. Not that there's anything like terrible about Tessa Thompson or like Natalie Portman or anything like that. But the other thing kind of too is if you look at it, he squeezed in two different villains into both movies for the reason that one of them had to be comedic, right? Because Hercules, Zeus served the same purpose as Jeff Goldblum's character. Oh, geez, why am I blanking on his name? The Grandmaster. He served the same
Yeah.
purpose as the Grandmaster, to be like that comedic bad guy in this movie. That was sort of the middle conflict to get to the final conflict, like like the side quest or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. And it's true, yeah. The humor didn't land as well. I think that it started off great because I thought the first scene was pretty funny when he
Yeah.
was helping those aliens on that planet. Like it was the interactions with that alien leader were pretty
Mhm.
funny. When he destroyed the palace, it was pretty funny. But then and the interactions with the Guardians of the Galaxy in the beginning, also some great improv comedians there with Chris Pratt and all that. That was pretty funny too. But then every scene, what they did, which they didn't do necessarily in Ragnarok, when it was a serious scene with Kate Blanchett, it was serious. When it was a comedic scene with some other character, they added a little levity to it. They were trying to balance and mix those themes up a little too much, as in, Wolfie, this is to your point, and then I'll hand it off to somebody else. The scene with Christian Bale as Gore, where he's like scaring the little kids and trying to be a little comedic there, was weird. It was weird because it was like, why are we trying to squeeze in this moment of levity when this is supposed to be a horrifying like god butcher who's like one of the most terrifying Thor villains in the comics? So yeah, like those elements were like a little bit too thematically crossed over. Oh, and one more thing, the comedy was also overdone in points too, right? Because even stuff that was super funny, like Storm
Oh
Gnasher
God,
or
please
and
don't.
Tooth Gnasher and
Oh,
Tooth
please don't.
Grinder.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like the first few times we were laughing our asses off, but like by the 50th time that they screamed, it was like, okay, yes, we get it.
yeah, I
They're
know.
screaming
Yeah.
goats,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of like to jump off of y'all's points of what I thought about the movie. Who else got some quick opinions?
I wholeheartedly agree with a lot of what has been said here so far.
Okay.
My main problem with this movie, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
I think that taking Thor in a new direction in Ragnarok was great and it worked. My problem now is that I feel like Gore the God Butcher is not a character taken seriously. A and B, I think the movie didn't take itself that seriously overall, and that kind of worked in Ragnarok a little bit, but it's starting to become the trend, and I'm not sure that I'm liking it anymore because I don't like. I just think that, especially, and I know. So look, general disclaimer first of all. The trailers are never what they seem or are supposed to be. I understand that,
Mm.
but they're supposed to give you an inkling of what the movie is supposed to be like. When I saw Gore in those trailers, even for however brief he was there,
Mm.
he looked intense, like Batman
Mm.
intense.
Mm.
And that is not what happened in the movie. And
Really
that really threw me
interesting.
for a loop.
I think
And
sometimes
I
it was
was
there.
not
I
okay with
It
I
that.
was there.
I just
Yeah,
think
I,
it's
I just think
there.
they
But not
absorbed
to
us in it. You know, we didn't really get enough time with him to be that way. What do you think, Wolfie? You were going to say something?
well, no, I want to let AJ finish his point.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just gonna say that I definitely felt the intensity, but I I lost the intensity due to other factors.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can't say that me personally, I can't say that he was intense. I can't. Maybe in some of his actions they seemed serious, but I never got that Darth Vader level of intensity that I was expecting from this guy. I cannot say that. I'm sorry. And that's the maddening thing too, because Christian Bale was amazing in this movie. One of the best things about it, like, oh god,
I I wanted to kind of like jump on that real quick because see my issue is not that Christian Bale wasn't I thought that he was intense. I think like for example the scene where he's trying to scare the kids is meant to show how much of a turn he had from someone that loved a child to now
Yep,
he wants to
exactly.
he revels in the child's horror. But that scene for example I think felt flat because it was right after and as well right before scenes of Thor, Phantom Ghost visiting them and kind of like being joyful and we see like the jokes and like his nose being ruffled up and it just that levity takes away from the dramatic effect of Gore trying to, truly threaten these children's lives. It doesn't feel like the children are being threatened in any way when Thor can just visit them and like to give them literally status updates. Like, hey, so just checking in on you guys. Let me tell you a fun little story. Like, oh, this is what we're up to right now. Anyways, we'll be back in a little bit. It just doesn't feel like there's any. It doesn't feel like Gore is consequential in any way, despite how intense he might be in certain scenes. So I think it takes away from the intensity because of those, again, takeaway TD moments.
I mean, you could also kind of add to that too. And because of the Taika Waititi moments, it took away. I mean, we got to remember, like Infinity and all of these characters are huge, huge, huge characters in the MCU and in Marvel Comics, and it almost gets not glossed over. Like I don't know if that's the right word, but because
It's
of that same
diminished. It
thematic
gets
thing, yeah,
diminished.
that's the
Yeah.
perfect way to put it. It gets diminished because of the fact that it's all being played for kind of an extra comedic effect. And indeed, um,
Just
my
like the
wife
ghost.
made this comparison. It was like the everything bagel in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was played for comedy, right? Like it
Yeah.
was almost like you were staring at that same thing when you were looking at Infinity, and then you had all the other cosmic beings that were in the room. Like you had all these things that they just couldn't really build upon, and again, were diminished, like Wolfie said, because of too many attempts at making it
Well,
comedic.
well,
And
Yeah.
one more thing, I'm sorry
Hmm.
to cut you off while you're about to say something, but like, and Wolfie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like in the comics, the change that they made to Thor recently, they did make it more comedic than it used to be, but it's less about him being a dummy, which is what it ends up being in a lot of these movies, and more of him being a little bit more of a fish out of water.
Yeah,
like
that's
not
exactly what
understanding
it's supposed to
things
be, you know,
and making jokes
because
about that.
Thor in the comics has always been about identity, which is what they're trying to show with the films as well.
Hmm.
Thor trying to find his place in the
Hmm.
universe, find his place amongst earthly humans,
Yeah.
but not because he's, you know, a bumbling idiot, but because he just comes. He's an alien, you know, like the cultures, the customs, the way he speaks. Those things are foreign to us. The way that our culture is foreign to him, and that's where you have comedic elements in the comics. And I think those comedic elements were really there in the first Avengers movie as well as the first Thor movie,
Hmm.
but it's being misrepresented in all the follow-up Thor movies, in my opinion. There
Yeah.
is someone that I want to hear from. Eli had a really interesting, because Eli was the only one that gave it like a quite a high rating. So I kind of want to know his thoughts.
Um,
Has it
okay,
changed? Has it
it
changed
has
since?
changed. It has
Okay.
changed just by a little,
Because
but
your
like
initial rating
a
was,
9,
it was like, yeah, you said
really
9 and we
high.
were all like, what?
Yeah, but I mean, it was like an 8 or a 7, like right in between. There was a
Okay.
lot of stuff wrong with it, but I mean, overall, it was enjoyable, which
Okay.
is what really I think that's what brought out the movie for me. It wasn't like there weren't parts that there were parts that were a little bit stale, at least in my opinion, where like some points where they just like you said they took a break to just get into jokes and stuff, which I thought kind of took away from the film
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
want to see
Hmm.
more of the story, and you can have that comedic element. Just, you know, you don't have to take breaks from continuing it, from developing characters and stuff. I didn't like Thor because of how comedic he was. He didn't show his Thor side. He was just one of those. I don't know. He was just a funny dude, and that was it. Nothing else to him. I really liked Gore, in my opinion, and I know that some people have some different opinions about that. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure, but Gore to me was an interesting. It wasn't done uh all too right, but I saw a lot of potential in his character because I liked the fact that he did, even though there was points that he was a little bit late. I thought that was really interesting because it's still he still managed to keep his humanity that he had previously.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting about his character, something that they really haven't done in the MCU, considering all of their villains are practically the same. Uh, so I thought it was a little bit different, although they didn't expand on it too much, so there's not really much there.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes of Gore stuff just to
Gore.
expand on him and make him more
Hmm.
of a fully fleshed out linchpin to the
You
story.
know,
Because I think that's all it
we
would have
we
Yeah.
taken, a little more time
we
with him.
didn't. Well, there's something that we didn't get, and I think it was a huge missed. Well, there's I think there's a few missed opportunities on the show, but
Hmm.
there's I think a huge missed opportunity in the fact that like when he became the God Butcher, we didn't really see him butchering any gods. We
Yeah.
Yeah.
only heard
Yeah,
about
that
it.
was the other thing.
And it's like, you know, if you
Just heard
want to
about it.
give us a little bit more of that gravity and a little bit more of like that investment in the overarching storyline, you know, show us why he's called the God Butcher. Show us like, you know, him going around, like at least show us, you know, the death and destruction that's been left. You know, I know that they showed us in like some of the clips, and they showed us when Thor went to visit what's her
Zeus.
name,
Oh,
Sif.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, Sif.
Cut off her
Yeah.
And
arm.
so that's the only time that we got to see like the destruction that he's left behind.
And you know what too? Like that's a great point because the setup in the comic storyline is way better for a few reasons. Because like in the comics, for those that have not read it, Gore he fights Gore multiple times over thousands of years. He fights Gore like as a young Thor, as the present Thor, and as old man Thor, like as King Thor. And the reason that that worked better for me, in my opinion, like I didn't like how quickly it was like, you know, Gore became the God Butcher. He killed a few gods. Sif and all of them figured out that he was killing the gods, and then Thor goes to an omnipotent city and wants to deal with the problem immediately. In the comic, it was great because Thor is, in a sense, proving Gore right, which is another whole thing in the comic that ends up, kind of being an important part of the story. But he proves Gore right because he sees this threat and he just ignores it for centuries. He basically ignores it for centuries until Gore really starts killing gods on the next level, and then he starts to really get involved. But that shows more of the arrogance of the gods. That shows more of what Gore was talking about. The gods don't pay attention. The gods don't care. So that setup was better in the comics. I'm not saying they needed to do it exactly the same because that would be a way longer setup that might be harder to film, but they should have done more with again, him slaughtering more gods, all of these things that are going to show what a threat he is over time.
They kind of did do that though with the Zeus character, because the Zeus character, he was fully aware of what Gore was doing, right?
Yeah.
And he literally goes to Thor, and of course, that's not his true feeling, but the public face of Zeus was like, yeah, Gore killed some minor gods, but he's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So there was a very, very small
an attempt
homage to that whole, right, exactly. And then secretly he goes to Thor, he's like, yeah, we're kind of scared, but you know what, we're safe here. So again, going back to the arrogance of the gods, right? We're safe because we're here. But yeah, he is kind of a problem, but we're just gonna ignore him because we're here. He's not gonna mess with us. For everybody else that's out there, that's their problem,
right? And in the comics, Gore survives because of Thor's stupidity and arrogance, and they don't really play that so well here. Thor's just kind of I'm just a sweet guy that messed up, instead of really leaning into it. I'm sorry, Eli. What were you about to say?
Wait, what?
Were you about to say something, Eli?
No, it was me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Wolfie. Sorry.
So all right. So actually, I wanted to say that I was actually going to mention that earlier. I think it's a huge missed opportunity for some character development at the very end, where Thor could have gone to Gore. I just realized that they rhyme. Didn't realize that till just now.
Thor and Gore,
but he could have.
Thor.
Absolutely, when Gore was, saying or whatever, their final moments, it could have been about you're absolutely right. Thor could be, you're absolutely right. The gods suck. I went to them for help and blah, blah, and they didn't help me. They are clearly not who we thought they are, and nor am I. But that doesn't mean that, XYZ, that you should go blow up the whole, world and universe and blah, blah, blah. Choose love, man. Turn into the hippie, what were we calling him before? Not just dad bod Thor, but
oh gosh,
man, no, come on, this is from our generation, the dude, dude Thor.
Oh no.
Yeah, he'd be choose love, man, and that would have been an awesome kind of bit of character development, because Thor is breaking his own ceiling of believing that the gods are all powerful and mighty, and then also helping Gore come to the realization that it's not all about just killing the gods. I just think that was a bit of a missed opportunity that would also then call back to the comics, proving that Gore was right.
I mean, if you think about it too, it's kind of silly that Thor would even care that Gore is butchering gods, because he straight up murdered, in his estimation, he straight up murdered Zeus himself. Self-defense or not, he was just hey Zeus, you suck. Here's a lightning bolt through your chest. He basically killed him. He thought he killed him.
He's still alive.
He's still alive. I think we all knew he was still going to be alive, but Thor kept saying, that he killed him. They kept mentioning that they thought that he killed him, and then he goes and tells Gore that that's not the right thing to do. So they kind of messed it up there too. I think
purpose in doing any of that to begin with.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about Zeus, because Zeus.
I was so upset at that.
He's kind of a weird character for me, and you know what? With all this stuff about representation and making sure that you represent cultures correctly, I don't know how Greek people will feel about Russell Crowe's performance as Zeus,
man.
because if you're really looking at it, and I'm not trying to be woke or anything like that, but the way that they represented Zeus, and I understand that they're trying to accent the Greekness of him,
Yeah,
but do we really
mythological Zeus, right?
yeah, did we really need to lean into typical, gyro
I was
selling
gonna
guy in
say,
Astoria? You know what I'm saying?
gyro truck guy.
Exactly. I mean,
Nothing wrong or against the gyro truck
no,
guys,
no,
but
absolutely
he
not.
sounds like this is it's like they went over the top and told Russell Crowe, "Hey, look, I want you to just be the gyro truck guy."
Yeah,
And
the dude from
at,
Astoria,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah. For those guys that aren't here in New York, yeah, Astoria's where like we got a ton of gyro spots.
yeah,
Oh
I
man,
don't know how I feel about that because Russell Crowe is a great actor. You can't tell me that a guy that's classically trained like that can give you a sort of, and this is gonna sound weird, a sort of accurate Zeus. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you're
maybe
wasting
but
his talent.
I think that goes to like kind of again, that's the Taika Waititi thing, not of just the jokes, but of just the whole like, oh, it would be funny if like Zeus wasn't a Greek god, he was just a food truck guy. In the sense, in the essence, in his essence, and that's
Right.
like something that he thinks that's funny, and I think that a lot of people can find funny, but it really takes away from the overall story, the overall character of Zeus, even in Marvel. It just takes away from it. You know what I mean? Like
What's the word that you use? It diminishes his character.
diminishes the character, diminishes the world, it diminishes the entire Thor universe, in my opinion, because Thor just like the movies to me don't make Thor feel grandiose. It makes Thor feel a little too relative, too
It's
local.
a
It
frat
just
boy.
doesn't feel like that impactful. You know what I mean? Like Spider-Man, feels super impactful because of who he is as a character, his being, his relationships with Tony Stark, and so on and so forth. And he's just a local guy from Queens. I should feel at least as I should feel like the Thor movie should be at least as impactful as far as the universe goes and the realms and like the universal impact, the actual like, space traveling and all that stuff and all the mythology. I should feel like that should be at least on some level quite impactful. Not literally just as another article, put it, not literally sold out just for laughs.
Well, can I then ask this question, because this is a question that's been bothering me for this is a thing that's been bothering me for a while when it comes to Thor, and I think truly that Marvel kind of has a Thor problem on their hands here, because if we look at Thor throughout this run of the MCU, right? We started out with him in Thor and Thor 2, where he was more of the I guess you would want to say the Shakespearean type Thor, right? And you literally had uh directors that had done Game of Thrones and Shakespeare and stuff like that, you know.
Oh yeah,
And then we
Kenneth
get into
Branagh.
Avengers, right? Kenneth Branagh, right?
Mhm.
And then we get into Avengers and stuff like that, and he's still kind of with that Thor. The really big change with Thor has come with Ragnarok, but then after we go to Ragnarok, we go back to kind of semi-serious Thor in the Infinity movies, and now we're back here with another caricature of Thor, and I kind of worry what type of Thor we're going to get going forward, because Taika Waititi's comedy is very specific. He has a style, and I don't know if other directors can kind of replicate that. And so, if you look at Thor throughout the movies so far, he's kind of schizophrenic, because in some of them he's like, "Yeah, I'm Thor," and then on some of them they're like, "Yeah, I'm Thor." It's weird how they do it.
Yeah,
It's
so the
schizophrenic.
thing is that like Thor has an identity crisis,
He really, really
because
does.
well, the whole thing about
Don't
Thor,
sell the
as we
man a
mentioned,
gun, please.
He always
the
does.
whole thing that we've that we've mentioned before is that Thor in the comics and in the movies is a story of like trying to find out who he is, find his identity, and it has never been more in your face than in this film. But with 4 Thor movies, as well as all the appendant movies, such as the Avengers films, by now you should have found his identity, and that is the problem. The problem is that they still haven't defined him. And here's the biggest issue that I have with this movie is that despite all the jokes and despite like everything that happened in this film, it is completely inconsequential. He is still trying to, I mean, I guess you could say that he found his identity as Dad Thor at the end of the film, which I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about. But I don't think that it really changed the film, really changed who he is as a person. He's just now shoehorned into this new role, just like they kind of explained, throughout the film. Like, he went from like, one Thor to Dad Bod Thor to, like whatever, one-eyed Thor or whatever. Like they explained like all these different iterations of Thor, and the movie ended with him essentially becoming a surrogate dad or the adopted father of a child. And he's now Dad Thor, but I don't think that it ever solved the problem of it never identified or gave him an identity yet. And I think that moving forward, like Thor is still going to be trying to figure out what his identity is, who he is as Thor.
I think another thing.
I don't know if any of that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense because
Okay.
I think a part of the problem also is that identity. So I guess I want to like talk about Love. That's her name, right? I don't know if y'all know that was her name in the movie. Like because I think maybe a part of the problem is that was this movie's way of setting up something big for the MCU. Every movie has like one little thing that and every show has one little thing that I think is almost throwaway, but that is going to lead to something in the Secret Wars, like larger Avengers conflict. I think Love is that thing. But
she has the powers of eternity.
Yeah, she has the powers of God, the powers of eternity. I think that there's going to be something to that. Maybe she'll be like Eddie Brock's kid or something like that in freaking the King in Black storyline. Somehow she'll be some powerful character that's the key to everything.
I think she's going to be the MCU's version of Infinity.
Yeah, I mean,
and there,
well,
because
Infinity was a thing already, though, right? So like. I don't know, like
in the MCU.
Yeah, I mean that was Infinity, or was it Infinity or Eternity? No,
that's Eternity.
Or
so
right. There are the different cosmic beings, right? Yeah,
right. Eternity is the male version. Infinity is the female version, and you saw when she was resurrected, the reflection in the water. She had the form of Eternity.
Yeah.
So that's why I think she becomes the character Infinity, who these are two very, very powerful cosmic beings. I mean, and this is why I think this movie leans in towards Secret Wars, because Eternity is a character that's present in every single multiverse and is one of probably the top 2 or 3 most powerful beings in the MCU universe.
It's up there, yeah.
Right?
I mean, so there's one for each universe, I think. I can't remember.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's what I said.
You did say that. Okay.
So if they die, the universe dies, which, hey, sounds like Secret Wars, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Secret Wars.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I'm sorry. What I was going to say, the point I was trying to make that I wasn't making very elegantly is like Wolfie's point. No, not my apology. To Wolfie's point, what has happened now is that you just put Thor in charge of a plot device, I think. I mean, we'll see what happens with Love as a character, but like all you didn't really give him an identity. You just gave him responsibility within the larger story, which might be a good thing because there's emotional stakes. And by the way, like I will, as another aside, say that Chris Hemsworth's daughter, that's who that was. Love is Chris Hemsworth's daughter. She's freaking adorable. But like, yeah, putting him in charge of a plot device might not work out as well as they think it will. And having a whole movie just to give him that plot device might have been part of what was weak about it. I don't know. Like maybe it was a little confusing how I kind of put all that. But I thought on that.
I think that that's kind of the same thing that happened with Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. Is
Mm-hmm.
like they gave an entire movie that was completely inconsequential again,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just for that one scene at the very end of the film.
With
With the
Clea, right?
yeah, exactly. Like the entire movie didn't need to happen, and just to introduce that and then connect everything. So it's just I feel like they're making a bunch of throwaway movies, just to kind of speed up the process
Mm-hmm.
of getting to the next big event,
Mm-hmm.
while still cashing in on money, but not putting in the work to develop the characters.
Yeah. I would agree with that for the most part. I think that most of these movies and shows have been plot driven and not as character driven as they should be. Probably Spider-Man was one of the more character driven ones, but even still, like it was just so heavily invested in advancing the plot and creating this multiversal threat and adding all of that Secret Wars context to this.
Yeah. Can I just run a couple of things right real quick? So
Yeah,
you guys can respond to
do
it.
it.
It's gonna be real quick. Talking about the kids, right? Uh,
Hmm.
Love was not the only Chris Hemsworth kid on set because one of his sons played
Oh,
Kid
really?
Thor.
Mm-hmm. In the
Yes, he
scene where he
played
was
Kid
while
Thor
he was
Oh,
running.
and
really?
when he was running.
Oh, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sick.
another one of his daughters were one of the Asgardian kids, and kind of lumped in that group. You had two of Natalie Portman's kids who
Mm-hmm.
were part of the Asgardian kids,
Oh man,
and
that's
you
kind of
also
cool.
had
Mm-hmm.
two of Taika Waititi's kids who were part of the Asgardian kids. So there's that. Going back to the
Hmm.
goats, those goats
Mm-hmm.
are actually canon in the Marvel comics going back to 1976.
Mm-hmm.
They are called Tooth Grinder and Tooth
Tooth
Gnasher,
Gnasher.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
and
you're right.
they're
yeah,
based on two Norse
yeah.
characters on
It's North
mythology.
yeah.
I'm not gonna say them because it's way too hard and stuff. But these are very, very powerful characters. Again, Taika Waititi kind of diminishing these characters.
Yeah.
These goats can damage Mjolnir. That's how
Oh
powerful they are.
Jesus
Yeah.
You know
Christ!
what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
They can eat anything.
Um,
Also, like they're like
and
Yeah,
they
that's why
can
they
be
call it Tooth
reborn.
Gnasher. Yeah.
yeah, they
They're basically immortal. The only time that they can't be reborn because Loki has eaten these goats and they've come back to life. The only time that they can't come back is if you break one of their bones, right, while you're eating them or whatever and stuff like that.
And
Um,
so, yeah, they provide they're meant to provide basically unlimited sustenance in battle.
right,
yeah.
exactly. And the last thing that we kind of failed to mention, and I thought was freaking awesome, is the fact that we had Melissa McCarthy as Hela.
Hella, hella.
We
Oh, that
had
was Melissa. I couldn't tell that it was Melissa
uh,
McCarthy actually.
yeah, we had Thor's brother as Thor. We had Matt Damon coming back as Loki, and we had Sam Neill
As
from
Odin.
Jurassic Park fame as Odin. And
Mm-hmm.
I
That's so
thought
funny.
that whole little thing was just classic Taika
It
Waititi.
was
I think that worked well because I found that scene to be very, very fun.
I think it's funny because I think that like a lot of the Taika Waititi jokes worked well, except when they were done too often, too frequent. I think that the goats were hilarious, except it was too much. I think that I mean, it's just all these things is just oh man, it's just it could have been so oh god, but it's funny because I completely forgot about the goats, and I have read Neil Gaiman's take on Norse mythology. I've always been a fan of Norse mythology and know about the goats. Completely forgot about the goats because I was so like, why are they screaming? And
Yeah.
yeah, like something so kind of important to Norse mythology has been now diminished to a screaming meme. Like all I can think
Good.
about now, it's like the next is this going to
Mhm.
be the next goat simulator?
Yeah, I know. Their
Basically.
names, I'm gonna try it. Tannostier and Tangrisnir are the ones in Norse mythology. Those
Yeah.
are their names, But it's just like you said. as powerful as these things are, they're memeable now.
Yeah. I mean, Boss Logic. I knew there was something. I knew there was a reason why Boss Logic had memed the goats, and I was like, "What is this about?"
What's gonna
And then I
happen
saw the
here?
film, and I'm like, "Oh, that's why."
Yeah.
All right.
Jose, there's somebody you want
But
to
yeah, let's
talk
talk
about.
about the post credits real
Yeah,
quick. A few minutes we spent on the
Yeah.
post credits. We got two of them.
Exactly. We got to mention that very quickly. I think that we can kind of close it out there because we got to mention the first post credit scene. Quick setup: we see that Zeus is still alive. He's just nursing his wounds with his harem or whatever you want to call it, and he's talking to a character off screen about how the gods are no longer taken seriously. They're no longer feared. They're no longer worshipped. And we cut away to see who he's talking to, and it is none other than Roy Kent, or Brett Goldstein. Brett Goldstein of Ted Lasso fame. Ted Lasso fame.
What?
What did y'all think of that? I don't even want to give an opinion on that because that was kind of wild to me. I'm just gonna let y'all like talk about that additionally. What do you think of Brett Goldstein as Thor? Roy Kent.
Hercules.
Thor?
Or as Hercules. Yeah. Any thoughts when you saw that?
I think they nailed the casting on that, because if you've seen Roy Kent in Ted Lasso, he's kind of like the a-hole, but he's got a heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's very arrogant and stuff, and these are all the qualities that the Marvel Comics Hercules is, right?
I mean, yeah, that's Hercules in a nutshell. Also,
Yeah.
right? He's a hero,
he's an
but
arrogant prick.
he's a dirk. He's a jerk. A dirk.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I was trying to say something else with a D there, and
yes.
We're getting real R-rated over here right now. But yeah, like
much like the film in certain parts.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we should even mention that, but that was a little jarring too. You talked about that, Wolfie, like the whole
the mighty cheeks.
Yeah,
the mighty cheeks.
Oh my God.
The mighty cheeks.
Yeah, it's just like the whole Zeus. Yeah, what's up with the cheeks, bro? Master cheeks, Thor cheeks. What in the world?
Showing off butts in these shows.
Yeah, that whole Zeus scene, the entire thing, with the exception of the fight scene, because I thought the fight scene was pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of it I could have done without, but the whole Hercules thing, okay, would have been a really cool reveal if I didn't already like not care about Zeus and his feelings. So like he's all like butthurt. He's like, I can't do anything, but we need to restore fear into the gods. So you go do it, Hercules, you non-god, half-man human person that I didn't acknowledge for my entire existence. Like it just feels like such a joke. Like Hercules feels like he's gonna be just like, I don't know if anybody like remembers Dan from Street Fighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Dan is like a spoof character, and that's what like Hercules kind of feels like now. It feels like it's gonna be just another inconsequential character.
So, yeah, I'm not sure where they're gonna go with it thematically.
For laughs, just for laughs.
And I love Brett Goldstein, but like I think it's gonna be a little weird when they're like, because is he gonna change his voices at all, or are we gonna have Hercules with like a Cockney like British accent, like "Oi, I'm Hercules"? Like, is that how he's gonna talk?
It probably will, when you consider the fact that we got Food Truck Zeus.
Yeah, but like, why does Food Truck Zeus sound so different from his son, even though he's his half son and he was raised on Earth? That's gonna be weird to me. I mean, I don't know. I like Brett Goldstein a lot, but I was definitely like laughing and excited. But like, I think I agree with you, Wolfie. I don't know that this is gonna be the best. It's good casting, but like because of the Waititi effect, let's call it, I don't know if it's gonna work out well, because I don't think putting those two together necessarily will do Hercules justice as a character. He's supposed to be a bit of a dummy, in the comics. He is, a bit of a immature character. But I mean, I don't know. And
they're already doing that with Thor,
right? And he's also older than Hercules, and than Chris Hemsworth. I think like Brett Goldstein's like 41 years old, so like he's supposed to be like this youthful, like
magic,
like goofy, like idiotic Hercules. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see. Any other thoughts on on that, on Brett Goldstein as Hercules or anything else in the film?
I'm
I mean,
really just indifferent.
yeah, I
Like,
don't.
I don't know who this guy is you're talking about from that show. Hercules himself, I'm aware of the mythological character, but I'm not at all familiar with the character in the Marvel Universe. So I really didn't care.
Yeah, it's the same thing with me. I don't really know anything about either. So mm, I guess it's cool.
Okay.
Well, what about the second post credit scene?
Yeah.
The one that I think was to me a little bit more impactful, but in positive and negative ways also.
Mm-hmm. What's
So
your
we get
negative
we get
thoughts on that? Because I think we're
all right.
probably
So
thinking the same
just to
thing.
kind of tee it up, we see when we see Natalie Portman, pass, she became gold dust essentially.
Oh
Yep.
What?
Oh
What happened?
yeah.
What was that? What was that? Oh,
no,
is
now I
that?
remember. You just jolted my memory.
Oh,
The
okay.
post
What
credit
was
scene,
what?
yeah.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so she became Goldust. She became Goldust essentially, and that was kind of like a tell all like, oh, she made it to Valhalla. She had an honorable death in battle, and she is recognized as a and she's recognized as essentially as an Asgardian officially because she died in battle and went to Valhalla. So I don't think that it was a surprise to see her in Valhalla in the end in that second post credit scene, which was awesome. Um, because it just means that okay, Natalie Portman is still a part of the MCU, and it won't be the last time that we see her. But the negative for me is that now, like the one bit of solemn gravity that I had in the film lasted as long as the credits. There's no like discussion. There's not going to be no water cooler moment like, oh man, like what you think of her death, what you think of this, that, and third. No, we know that she's coming back because we already saw her back essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not going to show her in Valhalla if they're not going to keep her in the MCU and show her in future projects.
Mm-hmm.
So like her death has now become meaningless. The only thing that it does, the only thing that her death does is reset Thor to Thor 1. Thor now doesn't have a love interest. He now doesn't have that love conflict that he's been dealing with for 4 movies. And now he can go back to just trying to figure out who he is.
And the problem kind of with that is I know that that's what Valhalla is in the comics and in the mythology, but now like you said, it effectively diminishes literally almost every single Asgardian's death because you can make the case that Loki's in Valhalla, right? He died in battle fighting Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
You can make the case that that
But
version of Loki is in Valhalla. What's that?
I guess it's possible,
He
but
was right.
it's maybe
I'm not saying it's
yeah, it's
necessarily the
possible.
case.
Yeah.
But with the logic that the movie uses, you could make the case that he's there somehow. Also, the logic is a little flawed too because Natalie Portman dies after the battle, even though she died because of what happened in the battle. And Thor was saying to
especially in
Sif,
the
like, "Oh, you're not going to go to Valhalla because you're not dying
the battle ended
in battle."
already. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like they messed up maybe like how that works there, which is why I'm saying like you could make the case that Loki's there. You can make the and that effectively, like you said, it made the deaths meaningless. Heimdall's back, everybody's back. Odin could be back for all we know. Like anybody that died is back. So those stakes are kind of messed up a little bit. And it did the same thing that Multiverse of Madness did because you have the end where you have him the third eye pop out and we're like, oh no, that's terrible. He's like screaming and it's supposed to be this horrible thing. And then in the next post-credit scene, Clea shows up and she's like, we got to go stop these incursions. He just opens the third eye and he's like, let's go do this. Like, why even have that in there as the end or as like the finality for that character if you're literally just going to reverse it in a post-credit scene? It's silly. It's very silly.
Well, the only thing I will say about the fact that she had the choice, if you look at what Valhalla, and I think they did mention this in the film also, Valhalla really is reserved for Vikings and Viking type people. She's not a god. She's not a Viking. She's human.
Yeah.
So I think that may be the reason why she has that quote unquote choice, because she was brought there just because of the fact that she was the mighty Thor, but she's not really a Viking and she's not a god. So I think that's where the choice comes in. and it doesn't necessarily break Valhalla for me because of that fact. Um,
Okay.
and,
Yeah, I mean,
and and
I can agree with that also.
It's only
yeah, and in the
Asgardians,
comics,
but yeah,
yeah, right, exactly. And in the comics, I think she was given a similar choice also. When she went, she had a choice to go to Valhalla, or she had a chance to return to Earth and become a protector of it. And I forget the character that she became when she went back. She wasn't Thor, I don't think, but
I
she
don't
was
remember.
something else.
Yeah, I'm
You
I'm
know,
reading that comic run now. I finished the God Butcher story and the Mighty Thor story where she becomes
yeah,
Thor, but she's still going through the cancer diagnosis in the
Right.
comics that I'm reading. So I don't know
yeah,
what the resolution is.
I
right.
I
And one other thing, long live Daryl,
Yeah, that was
because he made
the tour
he
guide,
made
right?
an appearance in the movie.
He was
Yeah,
the Asgardian tour guide, right? So
yep.
he's now
And
canon.
he right, because he appeared in those one shot shorts
Hmm.
after
Yeah.
Ragnarok, but that was produced and directed by Watiti, Thor's roommate
Hmm.
or flatmate, if you will.
After Ragnarok, that doesn't make sense.
No, it was before. It was before. It was
No, forward.
No. But what I'm saying is that it
the
came in the
shorts.
DVD.
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
exactly. It's not that it happened before. It was
yeah. Timeline
created
wise, I
and
think it
produced.
was somewhere else, but
Right, exactly.
Daryl exists
But
in the
it
MCU.
was
This is all that
successful.
matters.
Exactly. So long live Daryl. Woo!
Long live
All
Daryl.
right. So
There.
I think if there are no more comments on the film or the boys, I think the boys are gonna say bid you all adieu to this episode.
good.
Do you?
I'm very delayed on my segues. It's been a while. Out of practice. I apologize, but I'm still under the tutelage of the master of segues, Mr. Walt, over here. Anyway, please like, rate, share, and subscribe. We totally forgot to tell you guys to do that in the beginning of the episode. I totally hope that you guys all listen all the way to the very end. So I apologize.
I saved it.
I will be back to my normal hosting capabilities. But yeah, so for everyone here, Jose,
Y'all know what to do. Everybody, please stay geeky, my friends. Until next time.